Welcome to the NRL League Channel. So I've set up this channel. As many of you know, I'm a big rugby league fan. So I'll be bringing you all the roundup from the NRL and the English Super League. So we'll start off in the NRL, round 20. The first game was the Dolphins against the Cowboys at Suncorp Stadium in Brisbane. The result was 43 points to 24 in favour of the Dolphins. Half time it was 24-6 to the Dolphins. So the Dolphins just absolutely blew the Cowboys away. The Cowboys did come back in the second half and score 3 tries. But the Dolphins attack is just absolutely amazing at the moment. They're just scoring points from all over the field. If the Dolphins can sort their defence out, they're real premiership contenders in my eyes. But there's a long way to go yet for the Dolphins. But the second game in round 20 was the Sharks against the Roosters. So this was a really close game. So Sharks won 31 points to 18. It was 20 points to 12 at half time in favour of Cronulla also. The Cronulla Sharks are currently 8th in the NRL, so they're knocking on the door to try and get in the top 4. But the Roosters, they're 10th. So they're struggling to get in the top 8 at the moment, but there's still loads of rounds left, 7 rounds left I think. So there's still chance for the Roosters to get in the top 8 if they can carry on winning games. The game after that was the Canberra Raiders played the Parramatta Eels in Canberra at Geo Stadium. Half time, the Parramatta were leading 16 points to 12. So Parramatta were always in this game really, up until about the second half where the Canberra Raiders just absolutely blew Parramatta away. The game ended up 40 points to 16. So Canberra Raiders are just absolutely amazing. Their backs are just so fast and skillful, and their forwards just lay the platform for the halfbacks to do their job. So the Canberra Raiders are one of my teams to actually win the premiership this year. They just look absolutely amazing to watch, exciting to watch. Unfortunately for Parramatta, they're going to be fighting for the wooden spoon alongside the Gold Coast Titans and the South Sydney Rabbitohs. But at least they gave it a good crack in the first half. The next game after that was the Bulldogs against the Dragons. A lot of people thought this game was going to be a bit of a blowout scoreline, but the Bulldogs just scraped it by 20 points to 18. It was 16 points to 8 at half time in favour of the Bulldogs. The Bulldogs scored a try in the last 10 minutes to win the match. So the Bulldogs are currently second on the ladder. So again, they're going to be definitely in the top 4 in my eyes. They've just got such a great team. So it's going to be really exciting at the end of the year for a lot of these top 4 sides. The game after that was at Amy Park in Melbourne. So the Melbourne Storm played Manly Sea Eagles. Again, a lot of people thought this game was going to be a bit of a blowout score line, but Xavier Coates scored a hat-trick for the Melbourne Storm. They only missed 1 conversion, the Storm, so they only scored 16 points, whereas the Manly Sea Eagles, they scored 3 tries as well, but they kicked all their kicks. Ended up 18 points to 16. So Manly went away with the 2 points. And they're currently 7th, so they're still in the hunt for the top 8. So it should be interesting to see how they go in the next coming weeks. The other game was the West Tigers against the Gold Coast Titans. So again, a lot of people thought this was going to be like a really high-scoring game and possibly a blowout scoreline, but it wasn't. Another exciting game. It ended up 21 points to the West Tigers. And Gold Coast had 20 points. So there was a last-minute goal from Adam Dewey to win it for the West Tigers. That was played at Leichhardt Oval, over 16,000 people there for that one. So another great game in the NRL. We also had the Penrith Panthers playing South Sydney Rabbitohs. That ended 30 points to 10. The Penrith Panthers were without Nathan Cleary and Ayaz Ayo. Souths again, they've been struck from injuries again this year. No Latrell Mitchell, no Cody Walker, which is their two of their best players, really influential players. Alex Johnson did score a try for him, so he's chasing down the NRL try and score a record. So we're all rooting for Alex Johnson to hopefully he breaks the record this year. But the game ended 30 points to 10 in favour of Penrith Panthers. Penrith are just on a roll at the moment since the Origin. Start of Origin's finished. They've just won every single match. They just look like their old self, really, in attack. They just look really amazing. Their confidence is back, really. And they're going to push the likes of the Melbourne Storm, the Canberra Raiders, the Canterbury Bulldogs and Brisbane as well. They're going to push them all the way come the end of the year. So really exciting. We're all really excited for the finals, I think, in the NRL, because there's so many teams that can get to the final and win this year. There's just not the one dominant side that there has been, or one or two sides that have been the last few years. So absolutely amazing season in the NRL. Anybody can beat anybody this year, I think. But got a feel for Souths though, really. Over the last 18 months or so, just had so many injuries in key positions, and putting a lot of youngsters in to try and get them some experience. But again, they got very much well beat against a quality Penrith Panthers side there. So the last two games in the NRL were the Newcastle Knights against the Warriors. Again, another incredible match. This finished 15 points to 20, and it was 12 points to 6 at half time in favour of Newcastle Knights. So the Warriors actually scored a late try in the last minute of the game to win the game. There was a drop goal charged down, and Halasima went over to score the final try of the game and win it for the Warriors. And they're up to fourth at the moment. They're another good side that, could end up being Premiership winners this year. Keep up the momentum. They've toughed out some really, really tough games this year as well. They've had some injuries as well, but they're another key side to look out for. Very exciting to watch. You just don't know what they're going to bring to the table come the end of the year. Newcastle Knights, they're down to 14th. Again, they've been hit and miss this year. Some games they've been really good, and some games they've just been absolutely terrible. So again, they're going to be fighting for the wooden spoon along with the Parramatta, Gold Coast and South Sydney Rabbitohs. Right, so into the English Super League. It's round 19 over there, so the one round behind the NRL. So we'll start off. St Helens played Lee Leopards, and St Helens lost this one 16 points to 4. Very, very close game again. So it was 4 points to 0 at half time to Lee Leopards at Tully Wicked Stadium in St Helens. So Lee won that one, hard contest. Lee are currently third in the Betfred Super League, and St Helens are currently fifth. So that was a really good game, that one. And the second game on the Friday night was the Leeds Rhinos against Salford Red Devils. So at the moment, the Red Devils are doing it really tough. They've had a lot of players issues, refusing to play due to payment issues. But the Salford Red Devils did absolutely amazing in the first half. It was only 10 points to 6 at half time in favour of the Leeds Rhinos, and the youngsters did really, really well, and they should be proud of themselves of their performance against the Leeds Rhinos, who were pretty poor in the first half, the Rhinos, but in the second half they came out, put on a great display, and the game finished 42 points to 6 in favour of the Rhinos. So a lot of people would have expected this result, but we give credit to Salford, who are doing it tough at the moment as a club. So, and the other game was the Huddersfield Giants against Wakefield Trinity. Huddersfield down at the bottom, they're fighting for the wooden spoon with Salford, and Wakefield, they're pushing for a top 6 playoff position. So that finished 10 points to 46 in favour of Wakefield. And then the other game was Wigan Warriors against Hull FC. So this was quite a shock result in my eyes. Wigan are always pretty good at home. It was 20 points to 0 to Hull FC at half time in this game. but Hull FC were too good. They blew Wigan away in the second half, ended at 32 points to 12. Wigan are currently second, and Hull FC are currently sixth, so Hull FC is still pushing for the top 6 position to get into the playoffs finals. The last 2 games of that round was the Dragons, who are currently 9th. They're having a bit of a horrendous season. So they lost at home to Hull Kingston Rovers, who are top of the Betfred Super League at the moment. They look actually amazing. Mikey Lewis, the halfback there, just absolutely one of the best. I think is the best halfback in Super League. Sorry. OKR obviously won the Challenge Cup final at Wembley earlier in the year, and I think them and Wigan are going to be in the final for the Betfred Super League. But there's still a few games left to go in that. 7 games to go in the Betfred Super League before the finals kick off. So still a lot of time for things to change. So we'll wait and see what happens with that. But that game ended Dragon 6, Hull KR 34. The last game of the day, this was a bit of a shock result. This one was the Castleford Tigers. They beat Warrington Wolves. Final score was 20 points to 14. And half time it was 12 points to 10 in favour of Castleford. Castleford are currently 10th at the moment. And Warrington Wolves are currently 8th. So Warrington Wolves are more likely to get into the top 6 than Castleford. They've had a bit of a hit and miss season as well. So yeah, that was another close game in the Betfred Super League. So that's my roundup for the NRL and the Betfred Super League. I'll be doing another video later on in the week, giving my predictions for NRL fixtures and the Betfred Super League for this coming weekend. Yeah, thanks for your time, and we'll chat to you soon. Thanks, guys.